The wind carried secrets, not the playful whispers of a summer breeze, but the hushed, urgent tones of creatures unseen. They spoke of things best left undisturbed, of ancient pacts and chilling legends. The forest held its breath, a living entity aware of the darkness that coiled at its heart. Shadows stretched long and hungry, swallowing the last rays of sunlight with unnatural speed. Twilight painted the woods in shades of fear, the air thick with anticipation. The very trees seemed to lean closer, their branches gnarled fingers reaching for the unwary. And deep within their roots a primal dread pulsed, a warning echoing through the stillness. The forest floor was a tapestry of decay and rebirth. Fallen leaves crunched underfoot, releasing the scent of damp earth and something faintly metallic. Mushrooms, pale and ghostly, sprouted from decaying logs, their caps glowing faintly in the fading light. The air hung heavy with moisture, each breath thick and clinging. The woods breathed, not with the gentle rhythm of life, but with the shallow, rasping gasps of something ancient and weary. It was a living, breathing entity, its veins a network of twisting roots and hidden paths. And you, a trespasser in its domain, were being watched. A low growl rumbled through the undergrowth, so deep it seemed to vibrate in your chest. The forest held its secrets close, guarding them jealously within its tangled heart. But you could feel it now, a presence lurking just beyond the veil of reality. It was ancient, predatory, its hunger a palpable force that pressed down upon you, suffocating. A twig snapped underfoot, the sound unnaturally loud in the oppressive silence. The air grew colder still, biting at exposed skin with icy fingers. Something watched you from the darkness, its gaze burning into your back. The old stories whispered of the Skinwalker, tales told around campfires, voices hushed, faces pale in the flickering flames. They were just stories, myths meant to scare children. At least that's what I told myself. The forest held a different kind of allure for me. The peace of solitude, the thrill of exploration. It was my escape from the noise of the world, a place where I could lose myself in the symphony of nature. The deeper I ventured, the denser the forest became. The sunlight struggled to penetrate the thick canopy, casting long, eerie shadows that danced and writhed with the movement of the wind. The air grew heavy, thick with an almost palpable silence. The birdsong faded, replaced by an unnerving stillness. There was a weight to the silence, a sense of being watched, observed by unseen eyes. The wind picked up, swirling around me, whipping the branches above into a frenzy. Leaves rustled, creating a cacophony of whispers that seemed to taunt me, to mock my fear. I could have sworn I heard my name carried on the breeze, uttered in a voice both guttural and chillingly familiar. A sudden movement at the edge of my vision caught my eye. I whirled around, heart pounding, but there was nothing there. Just the endless expanse of trees, their shadows seeming to lengthen and deepen with each passing moment. Panic seized me, logic fled. The stories were true. The whispers on the wind, the monstrous footprint, all pointed to a terrifying reality. I was not alone. Something stalked me, something ancient and evil. The Skinwalker was real. Turning, I ran. Not back the way I came, but deeper into the woods. An irrational hope bloomed. Outrun it, lose it in the dense undergrowth. Branches whipped at my face, tore at my clothes. The trees thinned, revealing a clearing bathed in the eerie glow of the rising moon. I stumbled into the open space, hope flickering briefly. Maybe I could see it coming, maybe in the open I stood a chance. But the clearing offered no comfort. The air hung heavy, thick with the stench of decay and something far more sinister, something primal, like the musk of a predator marking its territory. And then I saw them. The trees at the edge of the clearing, they were wrong. Twisted, deformed, their branches contorted into grotesque shapes. The growl solidified, coalesced into a shape at the edge of the clearing. My breath hitched. It stood there, half hidden in the shadows, but the moonlight was enough. Enough to etch the image into my mind, a brand of terror I would carry forever. It wasn't human, not entirely. It was a grotesque parody of a man, tall and gaunt, its skin stretched taut over a skeletal frame. Patches of fur clung to its body, matted and stained. But it was the eyes that held me captive. Yellow, predatory, burning with an intelligence as cold and ancient as the forest itself. It moved with an eerie fluidity, a mockery of human grace. Each step was measured, deliberate, a predator toying with its prey. The Skinwalker circled me, its glowing eyes never leaving mine, a hunter savouring the terror it inspired. The stench of rot and decay clung to it, a miasma of death that made my stomach churn. My voice was trapped in my throat, a strangled cry I couldn't release. Despair threatened to consume me, but a primal instinct, the will to survive, flickered within me. I had to do something, anything, to break free from the paralysis that held me captive. My eyes darted around the clearing, desperate for any avenue of escape, any weapon to use against this monstrous creature. And then I saw it. My backpack lay discarded on the ground where I had dropped it in my initial panic. It was a slim chance, but it was all I had. The Skinwalker lunged, its movements blurring with unnatural speed. I barely had time to raise the tripod before it was upon me, its claws raking the air where my throat had been a moment before. The stench of decay filled my nostrils, so overpowering it was almost suffocating. I swung the tripod blindly, a desperate attempt to keep the creature at bay. It connected with a sickening thud, and the Skinwalker let out a roar of rage, a sound that seemed to split the night itself. The creature stumbled back, momentarily stunned by my unexpected defiance. It was the opportunity I needed. Scrambling to my feet, I turned and ran, adrenaline lending speed to my steps. The forest mocked me. Each twist of the path led to another wall of trees, another stretch of moon-drenched darkness. My lungs burned, my legs screamed for respite, but the pounding of the Skinwalker's pursuit spurred me onward. Ahead, a ravine cut through the forest, a black gash in the moonlight. It was a risk, a desperate gamble, but I was out of options. Better to meet my end on my own terms than be hunted down like an animal. I scrambled down the steep slope, loose rocks tumbling ahead of me. The air grew colder, damper, heavy with the scent of moss and decay. Section 2. The Price of Fear. Panic lent me strength I didn't know I possessed. I surged forward, scrambling over fallen logs, splashing through icy streams that cut through the ravine floor. The darkness was absolute, the only sounds the pounding of my own heart and the relentless pursuit behind me. My foot caught on a root, sending me sprawling onto the unforgiving ground. Pain shot through my ankle, a searing agony that stole my breath. I tasted dirt, felt the cold seep through my clothes. Looking up, I saw it. The Skinwalker stood at the edge of the stream, moonlight glinting off its eyes, its cruel grin a grotesque mockery of a smile. It moved closer, each step measured, deliberate, savouring my fear. I tried to scramble back, but the pain in my ankle was crippling. I was trapped, helpless. The creature lowered itself to the ground, its eyes never leaving mine. It was close enough now to smell its fetid breath, a mix of decay and something else, something ancient and evil. Section 3. A moment of truth. The Skinwalker lunged. I squeezed my eyes shut, bracing for the impact, for the searing pain of teeth and claws, but it never came. Opening my eyes, I saw it. The creature was frozen, its body rigid, its glowing eyes fixed on something behind me. Confusion warred with hope. What could possibly have stopped this creature in its tracks? Slowly, cautiously, I turned my head. Standing at the edge of the stream, shrouded in shadow, was a figure. Tall, imposing, its features obscured by the darkness. But even in the gloom I could sense its power, an ancient primal energy that seemed to crackle in the air. The Skinwalker whimpered, a low, guttural sound that spoke of fear, of something far more terrifying than itself. It cowered back, its previous confidence shattered. The figure took a step forward, and the Skinwalker recoiled as if burned. It was then that I noticed what the creature clutched in its hand. A bone, long and slender, pulsing with a faint ethereal light. The figure raised the bone and the air crackled with power. The Skinwalker let out a howl, a sound filled with despair and defeat, and then it was gone, melting into the shadows like smoke. Section 1. Sanctuary found. Silence descended, heavy and absolute. The air, still thick with the stench of decay, no longer crackled with malice. The figure stood motionless, its features obscured by the darkness and the hood pulled low over its head. For a moment I was frozen, caught between terror and a fragile hope that bloomed in the aftermath of the Skinwalker's flight. The figure turned, and for the first time I saw its face. It was a woman, her features weathered by time, her eyes dark and intense, radiating an ancient wisdom. She held my gaze, and in that moment I felt a strange sense of peace, a calmness that defied the terror of the night. She spoke, her voice low and melodic, like the rustling of leaves in a summer breeze. Her words were not in English, but in a language older than time, a language that resonated deep within my soul. I understood, not with my mind, but with my heart. She was a protector, a guardian of the balance, and she had saved me. With a gesture, she beckoned me to follow. I hesitated, fear warring with an unexplainable trust. But her gaze held me captive, and with a shuddering breath, I rose to my feet. My ankle, though throbbing with pain, supported my weight. It was a miracle, I thought, another gift from this enigmatic savior. We walked in silence, the woman leading the way, her steps sure-footed despite the darkness and the treacherous terrain. She moved with a grace that belied her age, a testament to an ancient power that flowed within her. Behind me, the ravine, once a place of terror, felt strangely tranquil, cleansed by the woman's presence. Section 2. Scars on the Soul. The forest gradually gave way to the familiar path I had traversed earlier. The trees thinned, allowing the first rays of dawn to pierce the darkness. The woman stopped at the edge of the woods, her silhouette outlined against the rising sun. She turned to face me, and I saw a flicker of sadness in her eyes. The Skinwalker was gone, but the memory of that night would stay with me forever. With a final nod, she turned and melted into the trees, as if she were a part of the forest itself. I walked back to my car, each step heavy with the weight of the night's revelations. I knew, with a certainty that chilled me to my core, that I would never look at the world the same way again. I carried the scars of that night within me, a constant reminder of the darkness that lurked at the edges of reality.